The launch command issued, and liftoff. Mark Vande Hei, Alexander Mazurkin, and Joe Acaba lifting off and now on their way to the International Space Station.
I'm NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei on the International Space Station orbiting 250 miles above our planet. And it's great to be a part of American Graduate Day. I've been fortunate to have had great mentors in my life during both my Army and academic careers. In fact, while at Stanford University studying for a master's in applied physics, one of the people who helped me along the way was Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi. Hello, Hakeem.
Houston Station on Space to Ground 3.
NASA is a wondrous blend of science, engineering, technology, with mentors at every step of the way. So become a mentor, just like Hakeem was for me. Oh, I missed it. Whoa, help me.
Hi, this is Hakeem Oluseyi, and among other things, I'm a rocket scientist, and I still get chills watching launches or spacewalks. In this half hour, we're going to talk about STEM-related topics and organizations like NASA that depend on the disciplines of science, technology, engineering, and math. Coincidentally, 70 years ago today, the space age began when test pilot Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier for the first time. He truly had what Thomas Wolfe called the right stuff. However, he might never have made it without guidance from the right people. Now, we call them mentors. When Yeager joined the Army, he was a private with no special skills. And when he retired, he was a brigadier general and perhaps our finest pilot. Our next guest was also a decorated military test pilot, who then became NASA's first Native American astronaut. However, like Yeager, he didn't start out as one of the best and the brightest. Please welcome Dr. John Harrington, former NASA astronaut and member of the Chickasaw Nation.
Hi, Hakeem. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I didn't write that. I think you were wonderful from the beginning. All right.
That's wonderful.
So, John, like Chuck Yeager, your journey started into history was not typical. You're Native American, you changed schools often, dropped out of college, and then took a job climbing rocks for a surveying company.
Yep.
How did the owner of that company change your life?
It took maybe 15 minutes of his time. I sat down, I was doing some work for a large sheet we're going to pull across the Colorado River. And he sat me down and said, what are you going to do when you grow up? I was 19, I thought I was grown up.
Right,
And he said, what do you do when you're 25? When you're 30, you can't raise a family on $4 an hour. So you need to go back to school and become the engineer and be the one responsible for all of this. Yeah.
Wow, so a mentor changed your life in 15 minutes.
A short period of time.
Yeah, so your journey continued at the University of Colorado, where your path changed once again. And how did Captain Richard Knockel influence your career?
Captain Knockel. I worked for the math department, and the professor I worked for, Jim O'Dear, Dr. Jim O'Dear, said, hey, I have the student that needs a calculus tutor. And I thought, 20-year-old kid, right?
Yeah,
He said, no, this is a guy who's a retired Navy captain. He flew Dauntless dive bombers in World War II, and he needs a calculus tutor. And he was getting a computer science degree, and he'd retired from the Navy, and so he tutored me about Navy, and we talked about calculus. And so he was the one that convinced me if I want to join the Navy, I've got to go officer candidate school in that direction. It was just intriguing for me, so yeah.
Yeah, so he convinced you to go to the Navy.
Yep.
All right. So after a decade as a decorated Navy pilot, NASA selected you for a shuttle mission, and you ended up walking in space.
Yeah.
So when you talk to students about reaching this particular scientific high point, what do you tell them?
It's that you can have a dream as a kid. When I was 8 years old, I used to dream about being an astronaut. I used to sit in a cardboard box and dream I was going to the moon. But I never thought it was something I could do until much later when I was a test pilot in the Navy. I'm in a school where the names of the graduates are on these plaques. And I started seeing names of the people I watched on TV in the 60s. Jim Lovell, Apollo 13, Alan Shepard, the first American in space, Gene Cernan, the last American on the moon, last man on the moon.
Wow.
These guys had all been Navy test pilots, and I was in the exact same school doing the exact same thing.
So that was clear path then. So you're also a member of the Chickasaw Nation.
Yes, sir.
Turns out my family heritage includes the Choctaw Nation.
Choctaw.
That's right. So what did it mean to you to be the first Native American to fly into space?
It's an honor. It's an opportunity for me to be in a position where kids can look and say, hey, I didn't realize that's something I could do.
Right.
And so this idea of I can work with students and say, hey, if you have a dream as a kid, be it astronaut or engineer or doctor, you can do it. And if they see somebody they can identify with and appreciate that in a mentor role, then it can fundamentally change their life.
Yeah, as they say, if you can see it, then you can be it, right? So they see you, and now they know they can do it as well. Yeah. Wonderful. So you spent your career climbing higher. You're now retired from NASA. You've achieved a doctorate of education, and now you're deeply involved with AISES, the American Indian Science and Engineering Society.
Yes, sir.
So now you have a new mission. Tell us about that.
Well, in the second half of my life, matter of fact, after I retired from NASA in 2008, I hopped on a bicycle and I pedaled across the country, rode from Cape Flattery, Washington to Cape Canaveral, Florida. And along the way, I stopped and talked to students. And I talked to NASA Explorer schools, and on the reservations, I talked to Native kids and talked about my journey to the Corps and how I achieved something that I didn't really think I could do. And so it was that idea that, if I can do it, you can do it type of thing. And in the process, I met somebody in Idaho that said, come back, you can get a PhD. I went back and I earned a PhD in education. I worked with Native kids and looked at the factors that motivate and engage them to study math and science. I mean, what is that factor that motivates somebody to want to do this?
Right, right. So why do you think it's so important to expose kids to this?
It's the idea that if they can believe they can do it, then they go. But it's the idea of hands-on learning. It's the idea of work with your hands and tying the theoretical to the practical. And that's how I learned. Climbing rocks, hanging off of a cliff. I saw math in practice for the first time.
Exactly. A lot of people say, what am I going to ever use this for? Well, the
answer
is
you
a
will
lot.
use it, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're with Native American students who are considering STEM careers, what are the words of encouragement you offer?
Well, I'll say Chukma would be hello, in Chickasaw, and Chikasha Abanoa would be my Chickasaw name.
Wow.
Yeah, above walker, Chickasaw above walker.
Nice.
Yeah, because there's no word for astronaut. And so, yeah.
Nice.
But the idea is that they talked to me. Had a young lady stop me in an elevator one day and said, "You're John Harrington." And I met you when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I didn't realize I could be an engineer. And now she's a civil engineer at the city of San Francisco.
That is amazing.
And it's like, that just it touches your heart. It really does.
It really does.
Yeah.
Well, John, it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you. We have a lot in common. It's unbelievable. We've done it. To hear someone else's the same story, and you are making a huge impact. And I've really been honored. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to talk to you once we're off camera and continue this some more. And I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me here.
Wonderful.